Sometimes, justice dies in silence. In Chicago, it died in an alley behind a butcher shop, somewhere between South Halsted and a promise never meant to be kept. Officer James Harper, age 31, found face down in pooled rainwater, gun drawn empty, 2 bullets to the back, his uniform ripped, his badge missing, and around him, nothing but silence. Not a witness, not a word, not a single damn truth. James Harper wasn't like the others. Not in Precinct 12. He didn't drink on shift, didn't skim off arrests, didn't laugh when others roughed up suspects. He was a straight cop in a crooked city, and that made him dangerous. Black, educated, military trained, clean jacket, 8 years in blue, not a single disciplinary mark. And more importantly, he kept notes. Always. That's what they would later say did it. Not his honesty, not his idealism, but his notebook, the one no one knew about until after. He lived alone in a modest walk-up apartment above a laundromat on 47th. His mother had passed 5 years earlier. His sister, Linda, lived on the south side with her son, Marcus. Harper sent her cash every Friday without fail. He was quiet, measured, always on time, the kind of man who saluted the flag even when the flag didn't salute back. But lately, Harper had been losing sleep. They met him late, told him quietly, "We think your precinct's dirty. Connors, Vasquez, maybe even Mallory, but we need eyes inside." Harper shook his head, said, "I do my job. I go home. That's it." But then came a picture. A 17-year-old boy, shot twice in the chest, filed as a gang shooting. But the angle said execution. The witness said, Red Connors pulled the trigger. And Harper, he flinched, because Red was his partner, his ride, his so-called brother in blue. Over the next week, things began to happen. A dead rat in his locker, a slit tire, a phone call in the middle of the night. Mind your F*** King business, Jimmy. But he didn't stop. He started writing. Everything. Names, dates, arrests, missing reports. He kept the ledger hidden inside his mattress. "If anything happens to me," he told her, "give this to the Tribune. You think they'll come for you? I know they will." He kissed her forehead, said, "Marcus is counting on us." Then he walked into the night, into the dark. The next call came from a patrol unit. "Officer down." Repeat, "Officer down." Halsted Alley. Harper's body was found by 2 rookies. No witnesses, no shell casings, no weapon, just his empty holster, and 1 boot print in the mud, size 12, regulation police issue. They said it was a mugging. Wrong place, wrong time. They closed the file within 72 hours. But Linda wasn't convinced. She opened the envelope. Inside, 43 pages of handwritten notes, a ledger of names, a map of corruption, and at the bottom of the final page, written in all caps, "If I vanish, start here." Scene, newsstand. A boy drops a quarter, pulls out the Chicago Tribune. Cop killed by cops? Harper's death sparks internal probe. And so it began. A dead man's words set the city on fire. Precinct 12 became ground zero. The brass denied everything, but secrets were starting to crack. This wasn't just a murder. It was the beginning of a war, and it would not end quietly. 3 months had passed since James Harper's murder. 3 months of silence, spin, and stalling. But on January 3rd, 1969, that silence broke. Because Red Connors, Harper's former partner, turned state's witness. Not out of guilt, but fear. He was found hiding 600 miles away, under the name Robert Crane. When state troopers breached the door, he didn't fight, didn't run. He said 6 words. "Get me internal affairs. I'll talk." Connors didn't confess to the murder. He confessed to the machine. He mapped it out. Kickbacks, drug raids staged for profit, stolen evidence, torture chambers dressed up as interview rooms. And above it all, Captain George Mallory, the precinct's ghost king. Harper was never one of us. He thought this badge made him a hero, but we wore ours like masks. The people of Chicago watched as the first active duty cop in decades turned on his own command. Connors' testimony lasted 3 days. He named 6 officers, gave badge numbers, dates, descriptions of beatings. I held a man underwater for 8 minutes. We said he fell on a pipe. You want to know who ordered it? Mallory and Harper. Harper wrote it all down. They called it paranoid, but it wasn't. Harper had mapped out every illegal raid. He even predicted his own death. If I end up dead, someone in blue pulled the trigger. The entire room froze. Even the judge leaned forward. She read her brother's last entry aloud, the one he wrote just hours before he died. I saw Connors meet with Mallory behind the station. I think tonight is the night. Her voice cracked. The room went dead still. Somewhere in the back, a young officer cried. As the trial progressed, the system tightened its grip. A blue wall isn't just about silence. It's about pressure, intimidation, fear. Mallory's arrest sent shockwaves through Chicago. 12 counts: conspiracy, obstruction, and indirect involvement in Harper's death. 3 other officers resigned within 48 hours. One vanished. One swallowed his own gun. Defense played its final hand. Claimed Connors was mentally unstable. Claimed the ledger was fabricated. A paranoid fantasy written by a lonely man. The judge allowed the jury to review only redacted portions. Key names were blacked out. Cross-referenced reports mysteriously missing. On charges of conspiracy and involvement in the murder of Officer James Harper, we find the defendant not guilty. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just whispered, "They'll bury him again, but I won't let them." The legal system failed, but the story didn't die. A year later, a Pulitzer Prize-winning exposé titled The Ledger ripped through the city. Harper's words, printed in full, the stories that couldn't be silenced. James Harper didn't live to see justice, but his truth lived longer than his killers. They wanted to silence him, but Harper's voice became a movement. In 1993, at the University of Chicago School of Journalism, Professor Arthur Renner placed a worn leather ledger in the center of his class. The students were silent. Some looked at it like a sacred object, others like a crime scene. It had been 25 years since Officer James Harper was murdered, but his words still taught the most important lesson in investigative reporting: never look away. After the trial collapsed, Linda Harper didn't stop. She made copies of her brother's notebook and mailed them to every major paper in the country. The Chicago Tribune was the only one that bit. They didn't run the story immediately. Fear, pressure, and influence still loomed heavy. But one young editor, Joanna Briggs, fought to publish it. "If we let this die in a drawer, we're no better than the cops who killed him." Her article, One Good Cop, became a front-page bombshell. The city couldn't unsee what it read. Harper's detailed accounts of unlawful arrests, beatings, stolen money, false reports, all confirmed by street witnesses who had never been called to testify. Precinct 12 was shut down within 6 months. Mayor Benton ordered an independent review of the entire police department. But Mallory? He was already in Florida, living by the beach. Linda never stopped. For 15 years, she made her brother's notebook the heart of a movement. She met journalists, professors, and eventually reformers. But it came at a cost. She lost jobs, friends. She was harassed, watched, even briefly arrested during a protest in 1982. Still, she told James's story until her last breath. In 1987, Linda died of pneumonia. She was only 47. But before she passed, she gave a copy of the full notebook to Elias Navarro, a young journalist she trusted. She said, "James wrote the truth. I just carried it. Now it's yours." Harper's story became required reading. His notes were digitized, archived, and taught as a masterclass in moral courage. In 1996, Officer Michael Lopez cited the Harper case in a federal lawsuit that uncovered a new corruption ring. The ghosts of Precinct 12 had found new hosts. But now someone was watching. In 2020, the Justice Department quietly reopened the Harper murder. Newly declassified files linked Connors' disappearance to a federal relocation program that went dark in the 1980s. The agent's name was Myra Dean. Her uncle? Officer Michael Lopez. And what she found changed everything. Somewhere far from the city, a man waits. He remembers the night Harper died because he was there. And though decades have passed, the truth still haunts him. Because Harper didn't die in vain. Beat. He became the one thing no system of silence can bury. A name spoken in every classroom that dares to ask. What if justice stayed loyal to the truth?